Thanks to EA for sponsoring this video. Hey lovelies, it's Kate. Welcome back to another Sims 4 speed build. I created a Sims 4 build inspired by the city of Amsterdam in the Netherlands. This build consists out of 7 different buildings which can be separated into individual fully functional apartment units. I took a lot of creative liberties, so this is only inspired by Amsterdam and is generally just a fun build, which could also be described as Canal Houses or Canal Townhouses or whatever you think could fit. As you will see, this build is all about the details. I added so many details to this. Here I'm working on the roof and I've used so many debug items for this, and we will talk about this again in a second. Before we continue, I want to remind you that you can use code EMERALD in the EA app and thesims.com when purchasing Sims 4 packs. You can use my code at checkout. Simply click on apply promo code and type in EMERALD to support me and my channel. I get a 5% commission and during sales a 7% commission. And there's currently a holiday sale which has some amazing highlights for you to check out. Thank you so much for your support. For me, this build was all about the roofs when I started to build. So I wanted this to look like something that's inspired by Amsterdam. And I feel like if you don't get the roof right, it's not going to look like Amsterdam or inspired by it. So I put a lot of thought into the roofs, and I was actually experimenting for hours before I actually started to work on this build and record it. And I was trying to figure out which items I could use to create this look, and I ended up using lots of debug items from Lovestruck. In Lovestruck debug there is an arch and also lots of items which are part of a fence. So you can assemble the different debug items to create a beautiful fence. And I placed the arch in the center, I sized up some of the fence items, and I then just combined them until I felt like it looks like this type of roof in what I was going for. And I'm going to use these items for all roofs, but I wanted the roof in the center to kind of stand out. I decided to create 7 buildings, so there is a central build in the center, which has like the biggest roof and the most details when it comes to the roof. And then I built 3 buildings on the left and 3 on the right. And these are going to be like symmetrical, so they are always going to be identical. You may have spotted this in the beginning already. So I was trying to make this look really interesting. I was putting so much effort into the roofing and the exterior details because I really wanted this to look really stunning and detailed. At the same time, I wanted this to make sense, and I didn't want this to look like it's too much because a build like this is easily too busy to the eyes. So I thought by implementing a bit of symmetry, by making like some of the builds similar so they are kind of in pairs, it's not looking as busy to the eye and it's like making more sense. And I feel like this way it's still looking kind of balanced and okay, even though I've added so many items. There's like so much going on in this build. It's wild, like creating the roofs, creating the exterior, the canal. There's like so much happening, which is why it was so fun. I was also facing multiple challenges, creating the canal, for example. I'm going to talk about this later. So it was so much fun to figure all of this out. Here I'm working on the central build. I know I started first by working on the one on the left, which has a beautiful blue color, but I then thought, okay, I want to have a central piece and I wanted this building to stand out. I wanted this to be a little bit wider, and you can also see that I tried to create a really interesting facade. So we have this window in the front, there's a little balcony. I've used this window, which is from Discover University, I think. I sized it up and I placed some base game windows on the inside to make it functional, because as you know, when you are sizing up a window, you are only sizing up the frame and then you still have the cutout of the window in its original size. So you have to like find a workaround for this, and using a nice base game window is a really simple fix for this usually. And I decided to use so many shelves and also pillars, like different items. I combined lots of different window types for the central building. I also used this wall decoration from, I think it's Decor to the Max, which is actually supposed to be used in front of a wallpaper, like some type of paneling. And I also decided to keep the central building really neutral. So the wallpaper is white, it's like white brick. And I then used these warm wooden tones to add details. But all the other builds, like, they are really colorful. It was then time to work on the canal. My initial idea was to simply use a pool, really simple. The problem is when you look at reference pictures, in a canal like this, the water level is sitting relatively low, so a part of the canal wall is exposed and then you have a relatively low water level. The water surface is sitting much lower than it would in a pool, so this is not working out. My second idea was to use a combination of a pool and a foundation, because if I would place a foundation right next to the pool and raise it, it would look as if like I have some type of canal wall and the water is sitting lower, and I wanted to raise like the whole build I had created at this point and connect it. But I then also thought, okay, I want to build a bridge, which is what I did here. I placed a debug bridge, and I also wanted to have a floor sitting inside the debug bridge so it's functional. So my solution was to use the water tools, which are part of the terrain tools. And I didn't want to simply dig a hole into the ground. I totally needed walls on the sides to make it really look like a proper canal. So I simply built a room. I removed the ceiling and I lowered it into the ground so it was sitting on the correct level. I then removed the floor and I replaced the floor with regular floor tiles, so it's not like a floor piece or foundation piece sitting at the bottom, but just a regular floor. And I then removed one wall, so I was able to actually fill this area up, so it's like not fully closed. And by placing down the floor, I was like kind of pushing down the terrain and I was able to create this canal shape. And this was probably as tricky as creating the roofs, because I really had to think, okay, how am I going to make it work? So I have both the bridge and a canal, which is actually looking like a canal. So it was a super fun challenge to actually figure this out. And I was then just able to decorate the canal, adding lots of debug fences. And I said earlier that I used debug fences from Lovestruck to create the roofs, but for the canal, I decided to use debug fences from Discover University. They look very similar. I simply decided to use the Lovestruck ones for the roofs because of the matching arch, but they are like super similar actually, the textures. And also in Life and Death, for example, we got these new pillars and different objects and they are also similar, so I can totally recommend combining them. If you want to create like this type of look, you can totally combine these different debug items. They look super similar. And here I'm working on another house. So initially I created 3 builds and I then wanted to work on the canal first because I wanted to see how everything is looking, if this is making sense, if this is giving Amsterdam. So I thought, okay, I'm going to finish 3 builds and then going to add the canal, and I'm then going to have some fun adding more buildings. So you can see that we have the center one and then the other 2 are a pair, as I mentioned earlier, and this is going to be the same case for this build here. So I'm working on this build and I'm then going to create an identical building on the left side, so it's always a pair. And this way, as I said, it's not looking too busy, and I wanted to use colorful, fun colors. At the same time, I wanted them to be a bit more muted and dark, so I was going for this really dark navy blue, this beautiful really dark green. So it's colorful, but at the same time it's like a really toned down version of colorful. Here I'm using a wall decoration from high school years. It comes in this really fun mint color, and it was really hard to like combine the different colors. I was trying to have like complementary colors sometimes in some areas, so it's looking interesting. And I also mostly decided to have a different color at the bottom than on the top. I also added so many bikes because Amsterdam is like notorious for people riding bikes. The Netherlands in general, they have like a really good system set up when it comes to bike lanes and everything. It's like really perfect for like exploring everything by bike. So like if you're visiting Amsterdam, you can rent a bike and you can really explore everything. It's like amazing for riding a bike, so I totally wanted to pay homage to this fact and I added lots of bikes. And here I'm like having a combination of a street and a path for pedestrians to walk on, and it's like not looking super realistic because it kind of has this indentation from the building's shape, but I just wanted this to look fun. And yeah, as I mentioned in the very beginning, this consists out of 7 units, or it's going to consist out of 7 units because it's not done yet. And here at this point I thought, okay, this is going to be quite difficult to furnish. And my boyfriend walked behind me and like looked over my shoulder, and he was like, good luck furnishing this. Like, he knows the struggle at this point because like he's seen like so many of my creations and the process. Like, he's the one who has seen it all, like the struggle, the blood, the sweat, the tears, everything, and also the fun. But he thought, okay, like this is a big building, and the problem is for me, like when I'm working on a build like this, furnishing a big mansion can be difficult, but usually you only have like one kitchen, so you put your whole focus on creating one kitchen, maybe multiple living rooms, and then lots of bedrooms. But here I knew, okay, I will have to furnish 7 kitchens, 7 living rooms, and like so many bedrooms, and it took me days to furnish this. I'm going to include the furnishing process of 2 units in this video because this took so long. I have no idea how long this video would be, but it's fully furnished, and you will be able to take a look at the screenshots at the end of the video so you can see like the whole thing. And of course this is going to be available in the gallery. Just a warning though, this is one of the most detailed, biggest builds that I've probably ever created. So many different window types, there's so much going on. It like actually started to lag a little bit for me at one point, so you like might want to like think about this. I just want to mention this, but I just had to create a build like this. I wanted to do this for the longest time, and today's the day I can finally show you my Amsterdam build. And this is the back, which is identical to the front. I didn't want to compromise. I wanted this to be just as beautiful in the back, so I used the same decorations, the same roof decorations, the same pillars, the same windows. I of course just removed the doors in the back, so it's only windows, but it's like identical, which made it even more detailed. So I didn't just want to put the whole focus on the front. It's also just as detailed in the back. I then added more debug items, as you can here see, and I decided to have a wall going around it. I found these like planting pots, I guess you could say, and I placed some trees on the inside. I just wanted this to be a little bit like a park, so this other area, the other side, is going to be like a park, and then we have like this area here, which once again like looks like a street, a path for pedestrians right behind the buildings. And initially I wanted to have a combination of cafes and stuff and apartment units, because this is something that I did recently for a build, but it's like not super functional unless you use a mod. It's kind of functional if you use the food store from one of the stuff packs, but I just wanted this to be like a proper apartment build. This is a pure residential build, so I ended up furnishing all of them like residential builds, but the front looks like a commercial building. And I was kind of trying to hide the fact by using curtains and stuff. I also removed some of the windows on the sides, so they are only in the front. It kind of looks like something where a commercial building was turned into a apartment. So this is like not super realistic, but I totally wanted this to look like the vision I had in my head from the front, from the exterior, and I still wanted this to make sense from the interior. Here, for example, I was going for a really green look in combination with these warm wooden tones, and I was always looking like at the exterior. So if the exterior was quite green, I thought, okay, I'm going to incorporate lots of green on the interior. One of the exteriors is quite red, so the interior is just as red, so it's like really colorful, but I still wanted this to look rustic. There are also like some modern vibes in there. I just wanted to have a nice combination of colors and a rustic style, but also a modern style. And it was so much fun furnishing this and also coming up with the floor plan. The interior is definitely not as detailed as the exterior. I was kind of feeling like I was pushing the limits here. It was already like slightly lagging for me. And I thought, okay, if I'm going to clutter this, then I don't know what's going to happen. And also, I'm going to be honest, finishing this was like a huge adventure and it took so long. And it's like one of the most detailed, biggest builds I've ever created. And I like didn't make it extremely detailed on the interior. It's like functional, it's looking cute. I still added anything you would need. And I also like chose some different colors for some of the bedrooms here. For example, this one has this beautiful pastel pink color and the green floor is from Life and Death. And this was just perfect for this type of style because it's like really regal looking, really rustic, and I'm so obsessed with this floor color. And here I'm also using items from Life and Death whenever I'm working on something that's like supposed to look a bit rustic but also modern and like this type of vibe. I'm always using the furniture from the new pack, I have to admit. I also made a small combination of shelves and this little table to add ATV to this. And the interiors are not super spacious because these buildings are super slim and I wanted to have like 7 of them. So when I was building them, I knew that they wouldn't be like gigantic on the inside. And when I initially started to build them, they weren't as long as they were. So I changed the dimensions a bit in the middle of the building process to make it look balanced because I wanted this to look like the real deal. And by making the buildings a little bit longer, I also ended up having more space to furnish and to have enough space for a nice interior. And it was really difficult to place the stairs, and each house, just to like make this clear, almost every house except a couple of them has like 4 levels, and this like took so long. Here I decided to go with this really warm color combination. So this is more of a wooden interior, really inviting. You can see the green one on the other side. So they are kind of neighbors. And between the individual units, there's always one tile in between them. So these buildings are not directly connected. I left a gap in between them. My initial idea was to connect them, but when I did that, when I was like experimenting at first, trying to make it look like Amsterdam, it just wasn't looking right. I mean, you have this type of look where you have all these buildings right next to each other. And when you visit Amsterdam or when you look at pictures, these streets are so long and there's like building next to building next to building like this. And I wanted to recreate this, and without the gap, it just wasn't looking right. And I also made sure that some of them are like sitting more in the back and some are sitting more on the front. When I made them so they were like on one line, like the front of the house, it also wasn't looking right. So I was really trying to make this work. So yeah, all these neighbors have this like small gap in between them. I also placed some windows there, so I guess you could like directly peek into the next window probably. And I tried to make the floor plan make sense. And because here, for example, we have the kitchen at the bottom and also the dining area, I thought, okay, you would walk up the stairs and there you have your living room. After all, this is like maybe like a brownstone in Manhattan. We have these relatively slim apartment buildings, which sometimes have 8 stories or something. And you have like so many stairs going up. And these houses are not only expensive, but also really spacious, even though they are like super slim. But when you look at the interior, then there's like so much space because of this. And there's also not everything on one level. Like it's divided into different levels, and there's like a living room, a kitchen, and this is kind of the vibe here. So for some of these units, some of the living rooms, a part of the living area is sitting on a different floor. And here I wanted to incorporate just a little bit of color, so we have this mint green and everything. And it was so difficult to really find perfect curtains because I have used so many different window types. I mean, mainly for like the regular windows, I used the ones from Lost Track. Like I wanted to have a really basic windows, but I also wanted to have like some more decorative ones, like the one from the Cozy Bistro kit, which I had used at the bottom. But still, there was like so much going on, so many different window combinations, and figuring out which curtain matches is like one of the most difficult parts for me. I'm still hoping for a nice curtain pack or a curtain kit. This would be awesome. And before this video ends and before I'm showing you so many screenshots, I want to once again remind you that you can use code Emerald to support me and my channel. You can apply the code in the EA app and on thesims.com, and I get a 5% commission, and during sales a 7% commission, and there's actually currently a holiday sale, so you can save a lot of money. And here I'm furnishing another kid's room. I wanted this to look really dreamy, and you can see like these small windows which are like super important for the exterior, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to place some small curtains and then it's going to make sense. But this is like definitely a little bit over the top and weird, but I tried to make it work. I didn't want to sacrifice these windows because they added so much detail. They are looking so beautiful, so I thought, okay, I'm just going to embrace it, and I did the same for this room. And this video is slowly coming to an end. I'm going to add so many screenshots so you can take a really good close look at the interior and also the exterior and everything I've added to this build. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've enjoyed this build. It was one of the most interesting, fun builds for me to create. I put so much attention to detail into this build. I really enjoyed the process. It was really difficult, but I think the end result is quite fun. I hope your Sims will love this in case they should move in. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for always supporting me. And I'm so excited to show you some more builds very soon. And also the second episode of my building masterclass. You can check out the first episode on my channel. And I wish you a absolutely perfect day and week. I hope you're doing so well. And I love you so, so much. Bye bye.